way you guys can go back and watch this, and you'll be able to go back and review. And there's going to be a lot of information that I'm about to spit out to you. Can you guys see the size? I kind of blew up my browser a little bit, so it's a little bit larger. Can you see the size okay? Everybody's okay? Perfect. All right, so what we're going to do, and I want to preface this with, yeah, I'm already recording it, Morgan. I'm going to put it on YouTube. So, no reason for you to do it, but you're more than welcome to record away if for your own purposes. Not a problem. Um, I want to preface this with I swore I would never write an automated trading system. And the reason why, and it's always been really, really consistent, is there's so many things that we teach and that we do and that things that we go through with you guys as traders, um, specifically termination conditions. This is a big one. And, one of the things that really was fortuitous when we got our prop firm going and the programmers that I brought in to do the prop firm are super high level. And I said, look, can we do an automated trading system? And they said, sure, sure, sure. I said, well, I've got some really complex things that are going to need to be programmed. It's going to be very difficult. And they said, no problem. So I started that it's either December or January, I forget. So literally what you guys see now is taking me 8 months to kind of get to, you know, programming about 20 hours a week so it's a lot of work that went into this. I'm on version 27.2, I think. So we've been through a lot of revisions and a lot of stuff, and I think it's ready now for public consumption. Speaking of which, um, everything's ready for you guys. I just have to get it secured, encrypted, and all that kind of good security protection stuff. As soon as that's done, I'll have an email sent out to you guys with the strategy, and it's going to be very easy to import. But let's talk about it now, and let's talk about what it is and what it does and how it does it. And again, this is in the user guide. So first thing, trend trade automated strategy. This is more how you add it to the chart, which is not really any of the specifics. Just right click, go to strategies, and then format your inputs. And I'm doing the real quick version here. Set up your NinjaTrader ATM, and then what account you want to trade. And yes, it will trade on prop firm accounts. If your prop firm that you're using NinjaTrader on does not allow trading systems, again, this is something that we can't control. We make the system, and you guys are going to have to do with it what you will. So, anyway, needless to say, we'll talk about drawdowns and things like that because, some prop firms have very strict drawdowns, and you're never going to get away with trading a system at those places, not on big contracts. One of the things that the strategy will do, and you guys will see this when we get it loaded, you'll be able to disable it or enable it. If you get into a market situation where you're saying, hey, this is just awful, or it's choppy, or it's the end of a day, or, ultra strong trends one way or the other are really detrimental sometimes to what we do. Because you're trying to go the other way after a termination and divergence and everything else, and it just doesn't work in a strong trending day. And anyway, we're going to talk about all the inputs and all the ways you can do what you do. Anyway, short version, it's fully automated, so when the rules are true, it will generate limit order or market order. We'll talk about the order entry types that it will allow you to do. So, it literally, the idea behind this is for it to do all of the heavy lifting for you. And, is it a replacement for a person? I would say no. it is pretty damn close to a replacement for a person. The consistency of it obviously is unmatched by people. So there's. Uh, can you guys hear me okay? Okay, just making sure since somebody said they were having trouble. Um, anyway, once an order is filled, and I've got some ATMs set up for you guys, and again, these are just merely suggestions, not the gospel. The nice thing about what we do is you're going to be able to have the trading system enter a trade or get you ready to enter a trade, and then you can manage and you can move your stops and targets and put them in the right spot. And you can also use the smaller chart for management, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And a couple of the plots you're going to see, just, it does plot some things like an indicator. If you use limit orders, it's going to draw a line where your limit order was. And, again, the conditions are right, but we're waiting for that pullback for an entry. You'll see a limit order follow the market all the way until we either hit termination or fibs or whatever the case is, or the triggers get weak, and then it'll stop placing the orders. The other really cool thing that you guys are going to be able to do is you'll be able to go in and hit, Shift Control X, and it will bring up this little grid down here at the bottom, which we'll talk about more in a bit. But short version is it has every rule that you have selected in the strategy, either true or false, right? The box is either filled or empty. There's a couple of additional lines and meanings down here at the bottom for things like support and resistance and bullish and bearish divergence, but we'll talk about that in just a minute. Anyway, just really quick to gloss over it, you have the ability to see all the rules written out on your chart, kind of like your own checklist. And whenever we use checklists, or Mark uses checklists in class, it's a good thing, right? If X, Y, and Z, then I'm going to do this. So this is basically the same thing as your checklist. Inside of this checklist, which I may actually split this out and put it down on its own so you don't have to see the grid, it'll actually plot how much money you're up for the day, how much money you're up on the week if you're doing replay, and then it will also tell you additional things like, which we'll get to in a bit. So I'm going to go through. Really, what I want to do is, again, hey guys, shh. So I'm going to have to disclaim. And again, you can't possibly say this enough in our business. I'm going to go on a limb and say this is not a set it and forget it tool. And while the strategy does handle 100% of everything you need to do, you should still monitor it. And the reason I put this in here is because market conditions can change rapidly, and during periods of extreme volatility, news events. I mean, if you have a terrorist attack or something that's going to happen, you got to make sure you turn the strategy off. Super sharp one-way trends are detrimental, as you guys will see when you start doing your own testing. Anyway, short version, you guys are responsible for it. Look, I feel comfortable enough with it. Let it run in the background, and I can leave the room and not worry about it, to be honest, as long as the market's not going crazy. Chart size basics. And you guys have this page, right? I mean, it's in the user guide. I'll give you a click paste in there just so you have it. Can I repeat what I said about drawdowns? They happen, Ed. They happen, and in strategies, look, strategies are stupid. So they don't know that the market's in a sharp one-way trend. And whenever we have termination conditions, it's going to try to go the other way. And you'll see when you start doing a replay, you'll be like, man, that's just going to be a bad trade. And you can see them coming. The more you know about reading our indicators, and especially, it's really just a sharp trend. I mean, you can get into a little bit of chop, maybe sideways, but it handles chop really well, actually. The only time it really struggles is when you're in a super strong one-way trend. Anyway, that's, neither here nor there. Well, you guys will see all this. Yeah, well, and that was also running 24/7. So, the videos that you guys saw, that was running 24/7, which is not the optimal times to use a trading system. So, we'll go through the inputs and you'll see how we can filter this stuff out. Short version, everybody says, why the hell do you use 21 EMA? And I put a little Fibonacci analysis in here for you guys. The 21 period EMA on the 13.2 chart is 2.62, which is your Fibonacci ratio of the 55 EMA on a larger chart. Anyway, all of our stuff is based on Fibonacci, and 21 EMA and our 55 period EMA, which is our mid band, is a very powerful thing. We've used it so long that I think it's just very, very common out there. Now, when I wrote this, I didn't want to give you guys a black box and say, oh man, I wonder why it's doing what it's doing. Maybe this is a bad thing, maybe it's a good thing, but I think, in our never-ending quest to educate and give you guys full control and understand what you're doing, I really want to explain each of the pieces. And somebody's like, oh, well, somebody else could write the system. I said, hey, for 50 grand in programming and 8 months of their life, they might be able to recreate the system, and that's okay. It's cheaper to buy one, but whatever. Anyway, I want to give you guys all the logic so you understand it, and I think that's the most important thing when you're looking at a trading system is why is it getting in? Why is it doing what it's doing? And with that understanding, you'll be able to maybe filter it a little bit if you need to, or push it a little bit harder if it needs to be pushed. Anyway, the EMA, the 21 EMA, that's basically our entry area. Semi-mimics the mid-band on the smaller charts, and that's basically the reason behind it, but it's been very, very consistent. You guys have seen the indicator on my chart, right? Anyway, the system will do market orders. And I want you to think about something. For those of you guys who've ever run Bloodhound or built strategies on dynamic Renko bars, one of the problems with that and why I did a lot of Bloodhound work over the years, and I gave up on it, but market order, and it's not a market order when the close of the bar happens, but it's actually when you reach the entry area. And anyway, short version is you can do either a limit order at the spot, which I find to be a little bit better personally, or you can do a market order at the spot. And if you wish, you can use stop limit orders where you're basically going to hit it and then put in a limit, and then I would never use the stop limit myself, but we put it in there anyway just in case. And then we have a really cool one. I mean, MIT is just a market order if it gets there. So it's literally identical to number one. So it's almost like it's not really a different type of entry. The stop order one is the one that I think is pretty cool. Let's say you get to an entry area, but you're not ready to get in yet. You want it to bounce 10 ticks or 12 ticks or 15 ticks or whatever. So you can activate a stop entry order when you get to a target area, which I'll show you guys some of this stuff too. But anyway, it's really, really gives you all. I wanted to give you guys as much adjustability as you care for, because a lot of you guys are going to play with this thing and say, wow, I really like these settings or those settings, or this is more my style. And we'll go through some of this stuff in a little bit. We may run about an hour and a half on this thing. It might take a little bit longer, but anyway, inputs pretty straightforward, right? What's your order type, limit order, entries, the EMA offset, really simple. I mean, look, it's whatever your 21 EMA is, and you can get in a little above it, a little before it. It just depends on what this number setting is. And If you're going to use stop limit orders, you got to tell it how far away you want your stop limit to be, and I don't like that one, but anyway, whatever. And then if you're going to do a stop market entry, how many ticks do you want it to bounce before you want it to get in? And again, I have it at 28, but I don't use that one, so I don't think that's the right number. Anyway, short version. Um, let's go forward here really quick. And I'll just kind of talk about kind of inputs. There's what's called a trigger quantity index, and I don't know what else to call it, but that seems pretty fancy. All it means is that, and it has an 11 on it because it works with each of these components down here from 11.1 to 11.7. And these are basically your areas, your termination conditions, your profit targets. They actually serve as a lot of different reasons, but short version is the strategy will read whatever indicators you have on the chart. It won't do synthetic fibs, so you got to get that one out of your head. But other than that, it'll say where are your fibs, where are your one-to-ones, where are your bullish and bearish divergence lines, your pivot stop out stuff. And when you reach one of these areas, let's say it was trying to go long. When you reach Fibonacci resistance or one-to-ones or whatever, it'll actually stop placing trades or cancel the order, and then we go into the actual trigger quantity index. And again, I want to preface this with, we have taught this stuff for 20 something years, right? And this is why it took so long, number one, and number two, why I feel so good about it, because it's exactly what we teach automated, which is really cool. Anyway, in the trigger quantity index, it says how many triggers must break your line in order to keep trading with the trend. And I've played around with 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I think 3's best because you get one large trigger and 2 small triggers. But anyway, you guys will be able to play with that as you see fit. How many ticks do you need minimum to a target before? And it doesn't calculate from bar closes. It goes in and it looks at where would your entry be if we were to get in on this bar on a pullback. And then from that spot, where is my next line on the chart, potential termination, and do I have enough ticks? And you can adjust that as you see fit. So anyway, it's exactly what we teach, right? Room to a target, all these kind of good things. And then, look, we've got trading rules that are in here, and these are just indicator configurations. And then we've got some exit stuff. There's only one mandatory exit, which is divergence on an opposite direction. If you're long and you get bearish divergence, you don't really want to be in. So it will take you out, and you have the option of turning that on or off. You have the option of setting sessions, and we're going to do this. Again, we're going to go through each of the inputs, and I'm going to show you exactly what they do and exactly why they do it. And again, as a reminder, and again, in the guide, I'll put these headings over here so you can go to specific sections. Shift Control X will turn on all your rules, and you'll be able to see, and the other cool thing is, you might get like 7 out of 10 or 9 out of 11 or 11 out of 12 rules true, and it won't generate a signal. But you may look at it and go, it's still worth it for me to take a shot or take a trade. And so it could be useful as, this is basically like Mark and I sitting in the room going, yes, this, but that, and no, but this. So it's a very, very comprehensive thing. And again, it'll also show you total profit, daily profit, stop losses, and all that kind of good stuff. So without further ado, let's go into each indicator specifically. And the other cool thing that you can do is, and I want you guys to do this, I want you to just tear this thing apart piece by piece and figure out, because look, it's been me and my brother, Mark. We're the only 2 people that have played with this thing in the last 7 months. And while we're pretty good at what we do, there may be something that you see that you're like, look, this is a rule that if you incorporated it, it would work 90% of the time. You need to think about it. I'll add it in, guys. So, this is going to be work in progress. And if you guys see something that I missed or something we could do better, I really want you guys to participate. So, anyway, short version is you can click for the rules, just divergence, and set it to like a market order. And, when you run the strategy, it'll show you arrows where all the divergences are true. I mean, that's basically it. No big deal, right? And you could literally run a test with just one input and say, show me longs and shorts every time you get a divergence. Now, it's not the most profitable strategy, but anyway, you could do it. The second input, and you'll see, I wish I was just a little bit bigger, but the second input is triggers. And everybody knows what that means when we say triggers. It's got to be triggers crossed up or down on the big one and, your odds favorable momentum look coming in, right? So everybody, do I have to go through triggers? You guys know triggers, right? So anyway, you can just check that one and you can go back and you can see the arrows where that one specific rule is true. So you can go back and test that rule and say, do I want that? And these are not trades. I want you guys to think about it. These are one condition in a long line of conditions that you may want to actually have a trade. Or, you can have it plot this only and then make your own trades after it. There's a lot of things you guys can do that you guys will have to figure out what's best for you. Anyway, everybody understands triggers? You good? I'm going to move on with that one. I was listening to my brother today, and he was doing, if you guys were in the class, he was doing a lot of work with where are you in relationship to the triggers, a lot of the trigger work. And one of the things that we did in this, or I did in this, is I added in an input called small trigger line position versus the EMA. So basically, if this rule is true, it'll say, unless the trigger lines are on the correct side of the 21 EMA, we're not going to do a trade. And again, you can see the arrows. I mean, the down, up. I mean, it looks beautiful when the market swings, of course, like it could be the most profitable trading system on the planet with just one rule. Probably not true in the long run because it gets choppy. But anyway, pretty cool that you can see where all the rules are true. And I invite you guys, I know it's a long weekend and you guys have plenty of time, but to go in and tweak it where you just plot one rule and go. And down at the bottom, you see the grid. It'll also tell you what the rule is, and it'll tell you when it's true or false down here, so you can go through and look at that as well. Yes. Yeah, it'll plot the history of where trades were anyway, but it's a forward looking. You can't just plot it and say what were the trades and run a history that way, because everything we do is dynamic. So you can't just back test it and say, oh, let me just see what's the best input. It doesn't work that way. Everything we do is real world going forward, not backwards. So you can't just go, tell me what the performance was for the last 6 months on this and just run it. It doesn't work that way. And this is also why I think it's really important that you guys have a huge understanding of what it is you're seeing. This input should be pretty self-explanatory. Where are the small triggers versus the large triggers? Everybody okay with that? They get above or below? I mean, we do teach that quite a bit. So anyway, it's in there. I'm not going to belabor that one. The next one is the actual price bars themselves versus the EMA. So this is when the rule is true. When you have a bar that is beyond the 21 EMA. Anyway, it's pretty easy, but we're going to compare when there's divergence, small triggers versus the large triggers crossed up or down. We're going to talk about location of the triggers. We're going to talk about location of the triggers to your entry area. We're going to look at the price bars versus your entry area. And those are all, rules, obviously. These arrows don't represent trades. Like, that's not a long, that's not a short, even though it's a miracle looking. It's when that rule is true. So I don't want you guys to confuse that. And you can test, because this is basically when you would stop going long, or you would, and some people say if you can't go long, go short. Anyway, you guys can, there's so much testing that you guys are going to be doing. Don't think you're going to turn it on and start trading it in a day or two you can, but I really, 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 really want people to understand it and see it. And because then when you're watching it live, you're like, okay, it auto-generated a signal, and you really get a lot better at your chart reading, I think, in watching it and knowing what the rules are. The next one should be pretty damn self-explanatory. I hope I don't have to go into this one too much, but the entry bar has to have a wick, meaning a tail. So when you look at these arrows, these are technically potential trade signals, right? Where we have those strong triggers, we're past the area, we get a pullback with the tail. So, in a lot of our lessons, we say go back and put a circle on those tails. Well, now you don't have to do that. This thing will plot an arrow where those tails are, and then you can analyze what happened before or after, and see how advantageous that will be for you. Anyway, everybody understand that one? The entry bar has a tail. That's all we're looking for. And what that does, it also, for anybody who's ever played with Bloodhound, it gets rid of the bullshit fills. And, where it's like, oh, yeah, the high of the bar was there, but it never traded there. So this forces the market to actually have traded in the spot where you want to get in. They'll have a reversal bar, Sam. There's no guarantee that it stops on a stab back with everything going strong, but, that's the risk we take as traders. Anyway, everybody okay with the tail? I don't really want to belabor that one too much if you got it. The second one is very interesting. And I think this is a really important input. On a lot of the tests I ran, I had it off so we could get the first trade, not the second trade. But what it does is it's large trigger lines versus your entry area. So, and what this will do, it will circumvent a hard one-way market where it keeps trying to buy and buy and buy and it's still trending down. This will force not only the small triggers, but the large triggers to be at or below your entry area before it takes trades. Everybody okay with that? So it's the fast, large triggers versus the entry area. Everybody cool with that? All right, we'll move on. Now, the other one I want you to think about too. We also have a stop taking trades when the large triggers versus the EMA is too far above or below. So, for example, when you take a trend trade and you're like, okay, I want to get in here and I want to go long or I want to go short. Once the EMA, so down here at the bottom is a good example of that. Once the EMA is too far above the large triggers, you really won't use it for a short entry area. It's on the wrong side. So this input right here kind of tells you, and again, it's number 9, and it coincides with number 9 right here, so you know which are which. But it tells you just how far can the entry area get on the wrong side of the triggers before we give up. You could have it at 0 and never get it on the wrong side of the large triggers. Again, this is something that you can play with. Everybody understand it? Short version, if you don't understand something, say it, because I am totally cool making sure it's explained. So, all right, but it's pretty simple stuff. where is this indicator versus that indicator? There's a lot of that going on. And then again, this one is, the first one where we had price versus the EMA is just any old close or any old price. The second one is you have to have a complete bar above or below the EMA, the entry area. So, it's similar, but a little bit different. It forces the market to go a little bit further before it gets serious. Yeah, I do. I do. But look, I don't want you guys to go in there all, turn it on blind and hope for the best. I mean, I think you'll still do okay, but I want you guys to have understanding. And while I have done a lot of testing, everybody asks me the same question. John, what settings are best? And there is no answer for that one. It depends on what you want it to do and what your idea of best is. Is best doing more trades and being more active and getting in as close to tops and bottoms as you can? Or is it, wait for the large triggers to really be incorporated with the entry area and be a little bit later, but you miss a lot of losers? So, again, I'll get you started, but I don't know where you guys will end up, and I think a lot of people are going to have a lot of different opinions. The one that makes you money? Yeah. And again, look, I think an educated trader is the best trader. Because then you know why and what it's doing, and you're not going, why the hell did it go long there or short? My brother and I both do replay, and we're watching it, and we're like, man, it's freaking amazing how it knows when to stop and then knows when to start again. I'm super, super proud of it. Anyway, moving on without trying to take too long here. 11 section is profit targets, terminations, and continuation of trends. So look, it's exactly what we teach. So we've got our mid-band, we've got our one-to-ones, we've got our support, we have our resistance, we have our bullish and bearish divergence lines. Everything that we teach in termination conditions. And we already talked about this a little bit before, but basically when you check these boxes, it says if price runs into an area, and that's where 11x comes in, the level hit tolerance. Do you want it to hit it exactly? Or do you want it to get within 2 ticks of the area to stop? And you can adjust that to like -2 if you want it to be 2 before. I just put it at 0. So if it hits it, it's done. Very D. I'll just leave it at that. Yes. My programmer does too. He's like, man, this is freaking awesome. Anyway, he said we shouldn't give this thing away. Anyway, let me get back to. So look, whenever we get to a level, we talked about this before, but the trigger quantity index of 3, that's how many triggers are needed to break the area. And then we talked about earlier minimum profits. And again, it's going to look for your entry area, which will be closer to your EMA, minus a tick or 2 or plus a tick or 2, depending on how you set it up. And then where is the next line, and do I have at least this many ticks before I get in? Dima, your question is, if you move the limit order line, will it stay there or move? If it's on the same bar, it will keep it where it is. If there's a new bar that would create a different order, it will move it. That's a good question. And you guys are more than welcome to move all, when you get filled and you get to profit targets and stops and things of that nature, you'll be able to, oh man, come on, Doberman. Hold on, my dog, my puppy's running under my desk. Here, get out. Sorry about that. When you guys watch this for a little bit, you're gonna really understand it a lot better. It'll be pretty easy. And then for now, we've got what's called the exit section, and there's only one mandatory exit that I have written into it thus far. I intend on adding some more stuff to it, but it's at a point where you guys can do it manually if you want. But if you're long and you have bearish divergence, it's going to get you out. I think we can all agree that's a pretty damn good thing. If you're short and you get bullish divergence, it's going to get you out. And that'll save a lot of money when the market's not going to go. It happens. I've watched this. It's awesome. Then you guys know, David, any chart on the planet you want to run it on. I can't say what's best. I'm just using what we normally teach for the last 10 years, 15 years. So you can tweak. You can run it on a 21.3 NASDAQ. You can run it on a 55.8. You could run it on anything that you want. You could run a 13.2 NASDAQ and drive yourself insane, or you can do so you can put it on small charts, large charts, medium charts. It's just rules. So when the rules are true, it'll do a trade, and when the rules aren't true, it won't. Which is pretty much everything we strive for anyway, right? As traders, if the rules are true, do a trade. I heard my brother in there. It's like the only reason you wouldn't do a trade when all your rules are true is if you make a mistake, because you want that trade. That's why we do this. Anyway, so you'll be able to control two different sessions. It's funny. I was tweaking with the NASDAQ a little bit, and from midnight to 3 a.m. and from noon Eastern to about 7 p.m., for whatever reason, that first hour of the NASDAQ after it opens up again is really good. Lots of trends that really follow through during that hour. But anyway, this is kind of a tweak I did on the time sessions, which works really good. Now, during the times where it's not generating trades, it'll still generate arrows, so you can manually trade if you want. Depending on what you want to do. I mean, if you want to manage using a smaller chart, which I would recommend, yes. All right, now, max daily loss. Everybody understands this one, right? I don't have to go into it. If you get down $3,000 in a day, it's going to stop. And this is me set it up with the 4 lot on the NASDAQ. So if you lose $3,000, you're out. The other thing that I wrote in there this last week was if you hit a certain amount of profit, like $6,000 in profit, then incorporate a $1,500 trailing drawdown of your profit. So if it keeps winning, it'll keep taking trades, but the minute it loses $1,500 of your profit, it'll stop for the day. The strategy runs on one chart. You may look at as many charts as you wish. And to talk about it, I mean, one of the things that I am starting work on next week is the incorporation of a smaller time frame in order to do management. And when we talk about management, I want you guys to think about it. We're not reinventing the wheel. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. My goal is to really do it exactly the same way we teach it. So as you guys go through this, if you get a divergence that's just by itself, it's not going to stop anything. If you get small triggers crossed up with a higher divergence, it's going to stop taking trades. And this is the management that it's going to exit a trade. So I'm incorporating smaller chart management with some of the good rules that we teach. One of my favorite, you got to have this is where in the strategy, let's just say you have a 60 tick stop, so it's way down here. A lot of times you'll come down here into the negative zone and then it goes back up, but a lot of times you don't. So we're going to incorporate some pivot stops on the smaller time frame. I think more importantly, if we get divergence that's higher or lower than the prior, you guys know this one by heart, right? This is the one I really think we need to add into the smaller time frame. That's going to be the first one that I do, actually, because I'm really want to see how that one works. I already know the answer. I mean, the market goes the other way most of the damn time, right? But it usually starts from what's a perfect look for a trend trade. So, you're going to get that trend trade, and then you're going to see that second lower divergence. For now, you're going to have to manage this on your own. So it's not going to read the smaller chart and know what to do. You're going to be the trader and do that. It's just going to leave your 60 tick stop in, or whatever 25 tick or 30, whatever you run as a stop. It's just going to leave it in and let it get hit, because that's the way systems work. So this is where I think you guys will do a little bit of management using the smaller chart and some of the smart things we teach to really do well. Again, one of my favorites is the higher divergence for an exit. You got to get your butt out of there. Anyway, all right. So anyway, that's to come later. That's the phase 2 version of what we're doing. So anyway, we'll have more exits incorporated later, but for now, it's just divergence in the opposite direction, or if you hit too much loss or too much profit target. Then you can also adjust that grid, because it is big, so you can make it, 10 high or whatever you want to do. You can tweak that up a little bit. You can also make the, opacity a little bit higher or lower if you want it to be a little darker or lighter. So anyway, I'm trying to give you guys 100% freaking full control from A to Z on every rule, every input, everything, because I think that's the only fair way to do it, is to give you the tool that allows you to tweak it up the way you see fit the best. And, what I see as the best is not going to be what you see as the best. So it's a good starting spot, but I don't think that's the ending spot. The other thing that it does now is, well, David, here's perfect timing. We've written into it so it can use your NinjaTrader ATM strategy. So, if you have a 40 tick stop with a 4 lot with 40 and 80 targets, you can use that ATM. Or whatever you have as your ATMs, and I'll give you what I have, but whatever you decide is best for you, you can write that in as an ATM, whip it up real quick, and then use it in the strategy. The other cool thing about ATMs and the strategy is, when you get into a trade, it'll generate stops and targets, but you can always move them. You don't have to actually wait until they get hit. So you have the opportunity to do that. And then obviously selecting the account. This button right here is going to drive a lot of people crazy. Enabled or disabled on the strategy side of things. You have to turn it off to make changes, and you have to turn it back on again to make it run. You'll spend a lot of time doing that. And again, hypothetical disclaimer, this CFTC is going to make me say this, because everything we're doing is replay and testing and things of that nature. So it's not actual trades. It's, the rules going forward, but in a replay environment is what I'm going to show you. So I got to disclaim it just a little bit. You guys want to get one going? Go play with it a little bit, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Let's do this. All right. So, true to form for NinjaTrader, there's only 2 really that I think you have to clean out every day. The cache folder, because especially now with the strategy, if you're going to be running it, there's some things that we run in the cache folder that you're just going to want to get rid of every day. So I'm just going to do it real quick. So delete everything out of your cache. And then the other one that I delete out is the temporary folder. I don't know what the hell all this stuff is or why they use so much crap in there, but I just say delete it. So cache folder, temp folder. I actually delete the workspace recovery file. That's just me. I don't think it's necessary. But those are the only ones I get rid of. I don't get rid of anything else. I don't mess with my data. I don't clean it out. The data is the data. Oh, my screen not sharing? Oh, I'm so sorry. What the heck happened? Okay. The video will have it, I promise. Where is I'm sharing my screen. Huh. Hang on a second. Sorry, guys. Let's see what the hell happened here. Stop streaming. Let me start this over again. All right, screen. Let's see what happened here. I guess I have to keep it on. Okay, I see what I'm doing here. Okay, I got it. Bear with me 2 seconds. Okay. Can you guys see this? This is our web page. Just make sure. Trading guides. Okay, trading guides, trend trade strategy stuff. So this is in here. Now I'll leave that up in the background. So again, going back to what I was saying, can you? Man, you can't see my why? Hang on. Can't see what I'm showing you. Okay, let's try. Share your screen. I don't know why it was being difficult, but anyway, okay. You guys can see this. So, documents, NinjaTrader 8, the cache folder, which I've already cleaned out. You guys missed it, but that's the one that I like to clean out every time I run it. And then the temp folder, I clean that one out every time I run it. And then once that's done, you can open up your NinjaTrader. So bear with me here. Let me get a NinjaTrader going. And let's see what we got. Hopefully it'll pop up and you'll be able to see it. You can't see my damn NinjaTrader. Okay. I'm going to have to stop this. I don't know why this is being such a pain in the butt, but anyway, let me do this. And I'll restart the screen. I don't know why I'm having trouble with this. It's Friday. Alright. Can you guys see that? NinjaTrader chart? Okay. No. Aaron, you see it? It's not a chart, it's loading. It's a blank chart at the moment. There's no data in there yet. Specifically for NinjaTrader. Alright, so it's loading data. I don't even want to do the MNQ. I don't know why that's on there. Let me see what I got. Let me go with my NASDAQ workspace. Let me get the right one open for you guys. Okay. NASDAQ, ODON 25. Now it's loading data. And I don't really need for it to load data because we're going to do some replay stuff. Anyway. Man, darn this thing. Okay, let's try that one more time. You know, you can't see my chart behind that, can you? Why is that doing that? Nope. Why is it not doing my whole... Oh, I didn't click the entire screen button. I am a dork. I am so sorry. Hey, it was my birthday yesterday. I might have a little hangover. Anyway, all right. Now, that's you guys, which we don't want that, but I figured out what I'm supposed to do now. So everybody chill out for 2 seconds, and then we're going to get down to business, and I'm going to do it the right way. We're going to go NinjaTrader. Okay. Screen, entire screen. And it moved on me. Okay. Now, everybody have a chart? I'm a little out of practice, I guess. Alright, so here's a chart. And what I want to do is, look, I want to show you guys how to do the testing. Because everybody can pull it up and run it, and it's really easy. Look, you just right-click, go to Strategies, set up your inputs the way you like it, and then you just enable the strategy. I mean, that's basically all you do to get it turned on. said assume. So that's it. There's your strategy. And there's a button that's over here on the side, enabled or disabled. So if you want to run it 24/7, but then you don't want to do it unless you want it to generate a trade, you can click the button on or off. Alpha, I have to finish adding my security piece to it, so that's what you're waiting on. If all goes well, I'll have it done within an hour or two after the class. I just couldn't finish it before the class. And what I will do is anybody who has purchased the strategy, I will email out your file to you with instructions so you won't have any issues. And then if you have questions, you can always get with tech or anything else. But it's going to be very, very easy. You're just going to load it up, and it's going to be very, very simple. Also, after today, I don't want to sell any more lifetime versions of this thing. I'm going to put a link in here. That's the lifetime version if you want to buy one. But I'd rather everybody leased it going forward. And the reason why is, number one, the residual income will allow me to continue programming indefinitely on it until we get better and better and better, if need be. And then, anyway, that's it. I wanted to sell some lifetimes so we could pay for the 8 months worth of programming that I've already invested into this thing, and a little bit more for the extra. So we've already hit the number of lifetimes that I would like to do. I mean, I don't care if you guys want to keep going, but this is today right here, guys. HCC, will our trades or settings be logged or cached by Ninja Nexgen to help enhance? No. I am not watching over your shoulder. I have no control over your machine. We have no idea what you've done with it. So, no. Black Prince, no. Is cash in hand, or just you're going to have to lease it? And I won't have a lease version available probably for another week or two. Just depends on, there's a different structure that I have to do in order to lease it and turn it on and off on people. The other thing too, guys, look, I want to say this out loud real quick before we do a little replay. When you guys lease it, Edwin, I think this is good. Yes, lifetime gets you all the future enhancements and updates on this one. Absolutely. Which there will be some. I'm about to start doing the automated smaller time frame stuff. But look, these are trades that it just generated, obviously. I mean, we didn't have it on for live trading, but just to give you a visual, look at this. This is the one that makes me cry. So all the rules were true for a trade, and it might have missed the limit order entry by one tick. Anyway, that's sad. And this is where the market order would get you in, but the limit order might have missed by one tick. But it's always frustrating to miss a big win. And then look, you guys can see also, this goes back to the plotting. You see where the little line is, a little pink line? I just want to make sure you guys can see that. I'm trying to blow it up here for you. See that little pink line right there? That's where the buy signal would be placed, limit order wise. So you can see exactly where it would have gotten in and what it was doing. And then you can also go in and turn on the grid like we talked about. And I'll get this out of the way. And you'll be able to see that we had every one of our conditions, including 3 triggers beyond a fib, true in order to take that trend trade. So, everywhere where you see every rule 100%, that's where you're going to see your arrows. Pretty cool, right? Anyway. And then, look, things weren't true, and then all of a sudden we broke fibs, and everything was strong, and everything said yes, and then it would have put a limit order in, and you would have been saying, hooray, hooray, hooray. Anyway, pretty cool, right? All right, so look, let's do a little replay, because I think you guys are going to do a lot I mean, I've done 300 hours of replay maybe in the last 6 months. So you guys are going to get a lot of replay time in, and the more you do, the better you get. I mean, that's just the way it works. So let me show you how to do it, and you guys might know. Yes, Ali. If all the rules are true, it'll take a trade, but that's the only time. It doesn't embellish like we do and go, well, it's not that great, but I'm going to do it anyway. So this is 100% checklist is true or not. Period. All right. Well, get with your salesperson and they'll help you out. Might just have to do it the old-fashioned way and get your credit card. Anyway, let's do some replay. Let me do this. I'm going to connect from the live, and I'm going to go back to the replay, and then I need to download today's. I don't have today's data. Get the NASDAQ for today. I've got a lot of data going way, way, way back, but anyway, so now we're on replay, and it's starting off on the 22nd. What was that, last Friday? Yeah, that was last Friday. Look, you can go back and replay as much as you want. I've got data myself. I downloaded the July 4th week of data, but July 4th week sucks, so you probably wouldn't be trading it anyway. So look, I'm going to go back to 7-7. If you guys want, I'll show you the last week, including today too. You know what? Let's do that first, and then I'll show you guys how to play. Okay? So let's see how this is going to go. When do you want to start? Let's start like 21st. Anyway, we can do whatever we want. You can download and do as many days as you want, but anyway, you get it set up, and then you're going to right click and go to your strategies, and you're going to say, okay, what inputs do I want? How many you can actually do multiple entries in the same direction if you want. I have found that to not be super great. Usually the first one is the best one. We'll do limit orders. We'll have pretty much all the rules true. Look, I wanted to talk about something. Remember when we had talked about the large triggers versus the EMA and making sure that at least the small and large triggers are getting through it? This is really one of those ones that when it's off, it's going to be very quick to do longs and shorts when everything rolls over. And this is the one that will save your ass in a strong trending day because it won't do every trade. It'll wait for much more confirmation. Well, but that, Brian, you have to understand, that was at 24/7. And 24/7 is not the best to trade. We'll do the same thing again, but look, I have found that, from midnight to about 3 a.m. after the London Open, and then, you can go from 10:45 or 12 o'clock to about the last hour. So you can set it up however you want. Let's just do this one we'll go 11 a.m. and then a space, and we'll go 1900 hours. We'll go to 7 p.m. I have found in my testing that first hour after the market opens for the Globex session overnight is really good. Everything else kind of sucks, but that first hour is really pretty good. I don't know what happens there, but who knows. Anyway, look, we're going to enter with a limit order. Yeah, when we do leases, Pete, I'll give everybody a demo time, and you'll get time to play with it and watch it and do what you want. So, the lifetime people are done, so that's easy. But if you guys, when we move to a lease model, you will not be required to lease it without loving it and actually running it, okay? So, you'll get your hands on it before you have to lease it. I'm going to charge $2,000 a month for a lease. So, it's not cheap. So, I just want you guys to know it's going to be expensive as hell. But it's all relative if it works. All right, so everybody understand, look, playback. We're going to go just playback a few days. So we'll go last week, basically. Week plus a day or so. When I do replay with the strategy, I just jack this thing all the way up to max. I don't know. I've been freaking busy doing all my work, so we're about to find out. Because I downloaded the replay data up until now. So we'll find out. You ready? Can you use your own chart templates? Well, you can't have synthetic fibs. So, all right. So look, do you notice that we're in a dark gray background? That means that we're outside of the session time. So remember, I only had it trade like from 11 o'clock Eastern time until. So we get a couple hours in the morning, few hours up until the London Open, and then I found that the opens are very, very, very sketchy with the Nasdaq. You guys know this, right? Um, that first 30 minutes or whatever, it's just freaking insane. So I just cut it out. So I cut out all the news times and all the morning open, and then that way, look, watch. Now see how we went light? So it just went lighter, and we got the rules to be true finally, and then it never filled the limit order. So anyway, but it looks pretty. It's the right thing to do. It's just we were waiting for the large triggers to be below. Remember that rule we talked about? And the large triggers were not yet below the entry area, so it waited a bar and it missed it. Anyway, that's trading systems for you. All right, we're moving forward, guys. I'm just going to let this thing rip, okay, for a week's worth. Market order would, Edwin. Yes, it would actually say when the rules are true and there's an arrow, it'll just get you in at whatever the best price is. So look, here's another one where the rules weren't true until a little bit after, and then it got in a little bit later. So again, as you guys watch this, I know it's going fast. Hopefully this is okay because I'd like to get through a week with you guys. See how it had long orders, and then when we hit a fib, it said, no, stop. So, and you'll see it'll generate. So here's a long order, and then now we got to pivot stop out, so it stopped. 3 triggers past a fib, so it went ahead and took a little trade right there. 3 triggers past everything, so it took a little trade. I know this is going fast, but you guys mind this going fast like this? You guys can go slow down your own replay and spend as much time with it as you want. I just want to get through the days. And I don't know how, I know how it does most days, but we're going to find out. So look, the other thing you can do when you're doing replay, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but you can go to new and then trade performance. And then you can actually pull up the trade performance for, let's get the sim off of there. Go on. Why is it not doing my replay? Maybe I don't have a whole day yet. I don't know why it's not doing my replay. I'll work on that. But you can actually see how much is it making and what is it doing. And you can see we're in the gray zone right now. So really good trade right there. It doesn't take it because it's just outside the trading times that we've allocated. But we've missed the morning craziness, and we missed all the news and everything else. And then once it's done with all that, then we'll start trading again. Yeah, you can just focus on the number, right? And see what happens. I don't know why I'll try to do it on another screen. So look, long trades, it tried until we got to the 1-to-1s, and then it stopped. So it's really, it's uncanny. Obviously I wrote it, so but I still am very, very, I'm like a proud father with it because it's like, okay, there's 3 triggers past a fib. It's going to take a shot. Lost that one, but anyway, that's the right rules as we teach them. This is exactly what we teach, guys. Where are the triggers? What are they doing? Are they odds favorable momentum? Every word that you hear come out of Mark's mouth is basically automated in this. And the other thing, you can go back and look at the analysis and say, where were all my rules true? This grid, I'll move the market up a little bit. So it'll tell us how much are we up for playing around, and then how much are we up on the day. Can you guys see that, these numbers? And then we haven't reached a stop loss. So our $3,000 stop loss, if it was reached, it would say stop loss reached, and then it would stop taking trades for the day. And then the other thing is I put a $25,000 target. So we're not trailing stops because of profit targets yet. And I don't know what the right number is. I just wrote it this week. So, it might be you needed, at $5,000, knock out 12, or if you're trading a one lot, it might be if I make $700, put a $300 trailing stop on it so I don't blow out my day. There is no right or wrong. It's just whatever you do with it. So anyway, I just wanted to show you guys where that comes in and just what it looks like on the screen. I think I'm going to take this money line out and make it a separate input so you don't have to have the whole grid up in order to do this, if that makes sense. I think we hit the weekend. So the other thing which, anyway, here, we'll watch trades. I've done so much replay. So look, that was your morning till 3 a.m. So you would have had a trade. I don't think it got filled, but so close. Anyway, you can tweak the inputs so you can get in a few ticks earlier and not miss those. All right, 3 triggers past a fib, and it got a little profit and break even. So we're on 8:25. So this is Monday, right? Is that right? Monday? Sunday or Monday? Yeah, it's Monday. So we're on this week. Mark, will there be a class? This is the class, Deborah. You're always welcome to ask questions of us at any time. Yes, you have the option to enable or disable right here on the right. So if you don't want it to take a trade, you can just turn it off. All right, so look, now we're in the right zone. You see how the background changed colors? So if we get the right rules, it'll generate a trade. And again, it's all the triggers above or below everything. Strong triggers. There's a short. All right, so there's one short. You guys agree with the short? I mean, it's freaking textbook perfect. And then it tried to go short again with 3 triggers through and got out with divergence. You see that little black dot right there? It said, oh, divergence, get out. So it lost a little bit. Again, everybody asks me, can I trade it on gold? Can I trade it on this? Can I trade it on that? You can run it on anything that you can chart in Ninja. You can run any time frame. You can even run different bar types. I've never done that, but it's kind of specifically written for this bar type. But technically, you could run a 34 range chart and see what happens. I don't know what the answer to that is. All right, so look, divergence, we break through. Everybody agree? Trend trade long, looks pretty good. And then now we're in the no trade zone. So we're on Tuesday. So look, this only take another 5 minutes or so. You guys okay running this thing and just seeing it? All right, cool. I'm going to try to narrate it as much as I can. So look, there's a long trade that it didn't take because we're in that zone, or there's a short trade, kick-ass short trade. It didn't take because we're in that time zone. So you can always have the arrows plot, and then you could do your manual trades if you see fit. And it goes obviously a lot slower than, 2,000 times replay speed. We are recording this, so you can go back and watch it. And, again, between the user guide and this video, I hope it gives you guys a really good sense of what I've done with the software. And, again, I think of it as your trading buddy. So much, as more, instead of your replacement. It's a really good tool that's going to do all the heavy lifting and all the analysis and be really consistent. And then your job is to make sure it doesn't do anything batshit crazy. Will I write it for TradingView? Well, this one's specifically written for dynamic Renko bars. So I don't know if TradingView is ever going to give us dynamic Renko bars. So for the moment, the answer is no. If you guys saw, there's 5 pieces to this program, and there's probably, I don't even know what the answer is, but let me see. It's gotten to be so big and so complex, it's actually a little bit shocking. We're probably 6,000 or 7,000 lines of code in this thing. I don't know. It's a lot. But it's not just necessarily how much code there is. It's what does it do. And you can see we're in the time zone where it's not going to generate these signals. You can always take them manually if you want. Anyway, I like to miss the morning. My wife is a very big believer in come in and trade after lunch, make a couple trades, and be done for the day. So anyway, so that's when I was like, man, let me test just the afternoon and see what happens. And she's right. I'll say it out loud. Yeah, this is this is the anti-bloodhound for sure. All right, long trade. Everybody agree with it? Looks pretty damn good to me. Boom, profit target. That's perfect trade right there. All right, now one of the prerequisites that I put on this is you have to have divergence first. So it kind of makes a better high or low, you know. You can run it without it, and it's going to generate all the trades even when there's no divergence, but I don't think it's as consistent. If you add the divergence in there, it helps a lot. You can see this is an afternoon where I got, this is 27, so 2 days ago. Very, very fast, very busy afternoon, if you guys remember. So it's just doing what it's doing, and we're headed on. Deborah, it's going to do today's trades. So I downloaded today's data up until about 2 o'clock, so we'll see. Yeah. It plots the entries and the targets here. I'll slow it down when we get a signal, if I can. Oh, we're out of the early morning zone, so hang on a second. But yeah, it will actually plot the entries. It will plot, the ATM strategy puts in your stops and targets just like you normally would trade. Okay, guys, we're at 9:30 yesterday. Is that yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. So we don't have much longer to go to get through yesterday and then today. Okay, so your answer is if you're running it live and your internet or power goes out, will it continue trading offline? Does your car run without gas? No. If your internet and your power goes out, it's not going to know what to do. It's not magic. It's just a system. That would be cool, though, if it knew what to do without power or internet. But, no, that one's pushing it a bit. All right, so look, it was trying to go short and see how it hit the one-to-ones and said, nope. We're not going short into one-to-ones, which you guys know is a good thing. If you've ever watched our, if you're brand new to our software, you're going to be like, what the hell, man? This is so much information. If you have had our software for a long time, see, look, it's trying to go short, and it ran into these damn terminations and didn't take a short. Now it did. There's nothing in the way, and then it did a trade, and then that's the end of that. Anyway, cool, right? It avoided all that mess, and then when everything rolled over and had room, it took a trade. Pretty cool, right? No, not yet. I'm going to email it out to you, Morgan. So that was called pre-sales. So all I have to do now is basically get all my protection and encryption and all that kind of deliverability stuff. So I'm hoping to have that done in the next couple hours, and I'll email you guys out. And all you have to do is just file, import NinjaScript, and import it in, and you'll be off to the races. So I'll have instructions for you. How's that? It'll be very simple. It's really, really, really easy. Yeah, well, look, I wanted everybody to have it before we even did this thing. That's a good long trade. It didn't take, but anyway, we're in the zone. We're about to come out of that zone on today. This is today, guys, by the way. So here you go. This is what happened today. So for those of you guys that had a question, long trade. I think I agree with it. Short trade coming? Nope. Triggers got weak. No fill. Long trade. There we go. We got past the 1-to-1s and it went ahead and took it. Little win, but okay. We hit fib, so it stopped. Long trade. Long trade again. We're almost to the end of my data set. So there was 2 o'clock. That's what I downloaded it to. So there is your today. And let's look at numbers. You guys want to look at numbers? Yeah, it can do multiple markets. It's just a system. Look, so these are the numbers for the 22nd until now. Just hypothetical. I gotta still say it. So, so 19,000. There was one trade that I had a gap in my data that it jumped, and it made $5,000 or something. I'd take that out because I don't know if. I mean, it would have won anyway, but I don't think it would have won $5,000. I think that's an outlier. So I'd take $5,000 off of this. So $14,000 in the last week plus. Anyway, 76% winners. You know, the win-loss ratio is going to be skewed because once we hit our first target, we go to plus a tick. So it makes some of the winners very, very small. So that's kind of off. Anyway, and then you could go in a Ninja Trader and say, okay, show me the chart and the different days. So cumulative net profit on day 1 was 1,100, 11,000 on, 10,000 on day 2, which is an outlier. And then 1,000, 1,500, 3,200, 440, and then 2,400. And there's your graph, obviously. And you can also do this, which I think is important, especially if you're going to do prop firm stuff with it. You really need to know what this number is. What's the max drawdown that it had? And then cumulative max drawdown, because if you lose more days in a row, it's going to add up a little bit. So this had a $2,800 drawdown on a 4 lot. And you may not trade a 4 lot, but you may trade one just to get a feel for it, which is fun. You guys want to do a little bit more? That is exactly correct, Nico. Just one chart. What you see is what you get. I want to show you guys one more trick. I think this is going to be important. Let's do this. I'll go back to the beginning of my data set so we don't do the same data we just did. Bear with me 2 seconds. I'll go back to 7.7. What I want to do now really quickly is I want to show you testing of each individual thing. 4 lot, same as what I have on my ATM. I want to show you guys this. So, Jeremy the other day is like, oh man, I want to know if, and he gave me a couple rules, and I was like, cool, man. And I said, technically you can test out what you were thinking, because he was talking about breakouts of the EMA and stuff like that. And so you can actually go in and you could say, I'm going to disable all these real quick, and then I'll tell you what I'm going to turn on. Let's see. So I'm taking off all the filters, all the terminations. I'm just going to let it run wide open. So we're only going to test price versus the entry area. We're going to test the bars past the entry area. And maybe we'll add divergence to it. So you got to have divergence. And then whatever the breakout is of your 21 period EMA. And then let's just make it run 24/7. Take these sessions out so it'll just run all the time. It won't be limited. We'll make our max daily loss $5,000. I don't know, whatever. So anyway, this is only testing. I'll show you the picture when we get it going. Let's do market orders so I don't miss anything. And then I'm just going to enable it. And basically, what this is doing is whenever you have a breakout of your 21 EMA, it's going to do a trade, up or down or whatever. You can add tails to it if you want to do that, but this is just one that we had put together, and it's when you can start doing something, and you can actually run replay on this. I mean, you can just let this thing go and turn it on, and you can test out just divergences, just trigger lines crossing. Technically, you can change your signals and make them whatever you want them to be. The other thing I want you guys to think about, yes, Dima, and again, the better your computer, the easier your life is with NinjaTrader. It's still NinjaTrader, guys, okay? So, anyway, so look, obviously you can see just breaking out with the market order of the 21 EMA. It's okay, but, So anyway, you're saying, okay, that's a pretty good rule because it's making a little money and it looks about right on the chart. So, you're just rule testing at this point. Anyway, so I'll stop that real quick. Quick 5Gs. Anyway, let's go back again. I want to show you some different settings. Let's say you only wanted to test trigger lines crossing. Just everybody always thinks, oh, if I could just get in whenever the trigger lines cross, I'd be a gazillionaire, which is not true. As traders, you know what we have, guys? It's called selective vision. We only see the winners and we don't see all the losers. And this is where this thing is going to be good because you can't hide from it, because if the rules aren't true, it's not doing a trade. You could technically, look, I'm going to turn everything off except for divergence. Everybody okay with that? So if it has divergence, it'll get into a signal. Easy, no other rules. So, and again, you can test out each of the rules individually, or you can test out combinations of the rules. So enable your strategy, and whenever there's a divergence, it's doing a trade. Can't say it's going to be good or bad, it's just going to do what it does. But then you can go back, and I think the benefit of this is not necessarily to do some crazy single rule strategy, but to be able to look at the chart and see where the rules are true individually, because once you understand when each of the individual rules are true, as you start watching your charts, you'll get a lot better at seeing the collective rule set come together. Does that make sense? I know it seems a little far-fetched for somebody who's new, but as you spend more time with our software, again, so look, we're just testing divergence only. Probably not super. I'd imagine it hits a drawdown in a choppy period, but if it trends, then it'll keep running on a trend. So anyway, these are not trend trades. You guys understand that, right? Only when divergence is true, it's getting in. Anyway, $8,000 so far. It's not so bad. I mean, it's rattling off a little money. Now, I don't think that's going to be a long-term trading strategy with just divergence. It's one condition, which helps, but I think adding them all together for the most part's a better way to go. But you guys okay with that? Here, I'm going to go back. We'll do another one if you want. And basically, I just, I'm going back on my data, and then I right-click, go to strategies. Oh, I forgot. The other thing I can show you, which is in the user guide, but if you go, you have to disable the strategy to change the inputs every time. Bit of a pain in the butt. But, the other thing you can do, there's a strategy tab over here. You can turn it on or off just by clicking the button over there. Anyway, that's just another way of doing it. So look, let's just do trigger line crossing up and down. What do you think? So we're going to do triggers plus small trigger versus large trigger. So the small triggers have to be on the right side of the large triggers. So we're just testing trigger line crosses at this point. And again, this is where I don't think you have to run a replay for this. That's not the point. The point is to be able to go back and look at your chart and say, when did both triggers say I've got an advantage? That's all it says. So when did both triggers say I had an advantage? And, just knowing that's a good thing, right? That's not a bad thing. Now, is it a trading system? No, it is not. So I want to preface it with this, but you could test it as a trading system if you really want to. So when they all cross up or down and everything's in your favor, usually good things happen for the most part. Now, I don't have any termination conditions or areas incorporated. This is just wide open. So anyway, but you understand it. Both triggers say it's up, and then that's where the condition is true. Both triggers say down. That's where the condition is true. All right. Yeah, you can actually ask questions in the Discord. You guys, I'll be there for the whole next week. You guys, if you have a question, it'll never go unanswered with us. You guys know that. We take good care of you. So I will be around if you have questions. Anyway, so look, this is just trigger lines crossing, and January 7th was a great day. It doesn't matter. You pretty much can't lose on January 7th. Anyway. All right, guys. I don't have anything else. The other thing, well, let me show you one more thing. In the strategies, I've got some pre-made things. This indicator template for your chart, number one. And then the other thing is I've got a couple of pre-made ATM strategies for you, which I will give you in the install package. I've got a NQ and then an ES. I started I don't ever watch crude ever. But crude just doesn't have enough movement in it to really get enough automated trades. Maybe it needs a smaller time frame. Kofi, it will generate trades on whatever account you have, and if that's your leader account and you have followers, it will also follow. Yes. I'll put it 13.2 as the big chart. Same way. Look, guys, there's nothing different than what we teach you. It's just all the heavy lifting is automated. So you guys can tweak it up and test it out and see what you like best. I'll give you a head start. Look, the head start's pretty much everything is on except for not trading into the mid band. For whatever reason, it stops too many really good trades. So you have to kind of take the mid band with a grain of salt. So, but pretty much, let me see. I have a template. Let's go load. So I have a template that's more wide open that will do trades earlier, and then I have one that waits for the large triggers to be beyond the entry area. So when you load up a chart template, it'll automatically put all these pre-made settings that I did for you. And you can see, other than the fast triggers on the EMA and price versus the EMA in the mid band, why is that not on? That's not right. It's got almost everything going. And then we look at the times. And then you can change your grid height a little bit, make that thing smaller. And then you can change out. So let's just say you didn't like that ATM strategy and you're like, I wonder what happens if I do 60 tick stop and 150 tick target. You guys will be able to do a demo of this sometime in the next week to week and a half. This is a totally different delivery method for doing leases and demos and stuff. So, unfortunately, the lifetime people will get one if God forbid anything bad happens, but today. Worst case tomorrow. I really don't want it to be tomorrow. Um, I have to finish one thing and then you guys can have it. Um, but you guys can test out any ATM that you have. And I'm going to give you a start, but I can't, don't act. I just want you guys to never ask one question. I want you to think about this. Don't ask me what's best, please. There's millions of combinations, and I don't know what's best. Now, I know what we teach, and I know what it does, but I can't tell you what's best. Because, some people like redheads and some people like brunettes. So what's best? Anyway, it will perform the function you tell it to do. How's that? All right, so look, I set this up, and you guys remember that video that you guys watched where I did a 24-hour replay of this thing? If you guys want, I'm going to let this run, and I won't necessarily narrate through it anymore. But this is going to be the full-on, just about 2 months worth of going forward. I'll let it just run, unless Ninja crashes. What do you guys think? If you get 10 grand up, we don't want to lose more than 2 grand? I don't know. I just put that in, so I don't know what the numbers are. And I think a max daily loss of 3 grand is probably sufficient. If you lose any more than 3 grand, something's not right. I know it sounds like a lot, but on 4 NASDAQ contracts, it's really not. There is a written manual. We just went through it. Hang on. Here you go. There's the page. And then I'll put a video in here, this video, and I'll make some other video. I mean, there's be more to come, but there's the user guide with all the inputs and the meanings, and then you'll be able to watch this video that we did, which is now an hour and a half long, but hopefully once you get, once you understand the basics, it's not terribly difficult. It's pretty much what we teach. So anyway, look, I don't know. I haven't done this one yet. So this is from July 7th all the way through today at 2 o'clock. And I set up, bear with me. I set up pretty much everything on except for mid-band as a filter and large triggers versus the EMA, so it'll get in a little quicker. And then, did I leave it on a limit order? Limit orders. That only plays limit orders. That's it. I'm just going to let it run, and if you guys want to stay and watch this thing, just crank it out. Cool. I'm going to let it run for the next hour, 45 minutes, as long as it takes to get through, almost 2 months worth of replay, assuming I don't lose my Ninja Trader. Anyway, I'll let you guys watch it. If you guys, do you guys have any, no, I'm not going to do any more lifetimes after today. We've already gone over what I said we were going to do. So I want you guys to pay me 2 grand a month indefinitely and love doing it because it's a kick-ass program that helps you make money. That's my idea. So anyway, plus the other thing, residual lease income allows me to continue programming, and my programmers charge me a pretty penny, but they get really good work done. So yeah, get with your client advisor, or there's a link. I put it in earlier. Where is the darn link? I got to go find it again. Let's see. Here's the link. Some people, if you click it more than once, some people have been having problems with it. Most people don't, but some people do. Clear out, hit Shift and F5 on your browser and clear it out before you go do that. Maybe it'll help. So anyway, after today, no more lifetimes. And then, God, if all goes well, by the end of next week or so, give or take a few days, you guys will be able to demo it and spend time with it and play with it and everything else. I've played with it a million times, and I'm super happy with it. I mean, the trades it does and where it trades and when it stops, it's just freaking amazing, I think. So anyway, hopefully you guys will feel the same way about it. Questions. All right. Non-Nexgen lifetime license. Can they lease it or buy it? No, they don't have to be lifetime. They can just lease. We do leases now. Kind of a new thing. Um, Deborah, why isn't the program able to enter trades with arrows? Yeah, because the rules are true, but if you place a limit order, it's got to get the limit order filled, or else you'll have the rules true, which is what plots the arrow, but you don't get a fill. So like this one, we got a fill because it went past the limit order. So there's a limit order, got a fill, and it looks like it got out because of divergence. It went the other way. Anyway, I think one of the other things that we could do is, as an exit, I'm debating without bringing in the smaller chart, that if you hit a fib, let's say, and you're long, and 0 triggers break through or 2 or less, then any reversal bar will get you out. I really think that's going to be a great exit strategy for us. It's not written in there yet, but anyway, look, here's the cool thing. Now we're going to have a whole bunch of Nexgen people that have it, and we can all collaborate and say this is a little goofy or this could be better. And I think with a few revisions, we can really make this thing super special. If you enter your own trade, will the system handle both? It will exit if there's divergence against you, yes. But it doesn't know what you're doing on another chart. It's not a mind reader. So if you're trading on the NASDAQ chart, it'll see it, but if you're using the same ATM, then, you're in control of your trades. It's not. So will it override you and what you're doing? No. David, there's really going to be a limit on this. At some point, we're not going to have any more leases or lifetimes just because we don't want too many of them out there. I don't know what that number is. I haven't thought through everything. I've just got it ready and going to get one to you guys. But if you send us people who buy software and they do a combo deal with software and the thing, then yeah, we'll pay you 10% referral fee. So it's not a problem. Send us 20 people. We will give you your 10%. Absolutely. Can we have 2 charts of NQ and S&P with the strategy running their respective different prop fund accounts? Again, look, I'm not going to advocate for somebody using a trading system on a prop account that is not allowed by the prop firm. I'm not stopping anybody. But you can absolutely run it on multiple. You can set it up. I've run it on Take Profit Trader, so I know it works. So anyway, needless to say, I know it works there. Apex, you'd be a freaking idiot to use it with Apex because their drawdown, you'll never make it with Apex with their drawdown. Now, if you're in some real money and you're way ahead and you don't have drawdown issues anymore, then that's a different scenario. But those are few and far between. All right, I'm going to stop the video, but I won't leave. I just want to stop the video. It's an hour and 40 minutes.